My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today with me I have the lovely Darlene Van de Grift. So she is a highly respected medical intuitive and a multidimensional mediator, timeline architect, medium, artist, and author with over 35 years of experience. She dedicated her career to helping people tap into their innate wisdom and spiritual guidance to explore and heal their multidimensional selves. Darlene's thirst for knowledge has shaped her educational background across different subjects, including applied kinesiology, one brain, Swedish and therapeutic massage, anatomy and physiology, matrix energetics, touch for health, tension muscle balancing, nutritional counseling, reconnection work, herbal and homeopathic medicine, and the energy art. So a big welcome to the show, Darlene.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to hearing what we talk about today.
Same, but I love how many different aspects you have been pulled to help I want to say enhance what you had coming through from spirit, because that is so many different practices, but I could see when I was reading them how much they intertwine together.
Yeah, that's true. I started out as a massage therapist and fell in love with the body. And then every client that came in that was asking other things, about their relationship or about their career or whatever, then I had to find out more about that and how to help them. So that led me to many different directions.
Yeah. And I feel that that's sometimes the nicest way to develop things, right? I often talk to people about don't go after the letters, go after what your soul's feeling pulled because it's curious about.
Correct. Yeah. Can't go wrong on that.
Exactly. And so as you were starting to work with the body and fall more in love with the body, is that where this medical intuition started to kick in?
Yeah. Well, I got involved as a massage therapist because my mother had gone through a healing crisis. And when she came out of that, she became a healer and was working with a chiropractor. And she had to get her massage license in order to do that. And she was making $15 an hour and I was making $4. So it was like, oh yeah, I can do that. So I had no idea of what it meant to work with the body. But in about 6 weeks, I was like, this body's fascinating. It talks. It talks to me. I can feel things in it. And it evoked something that I think was very old for me. But it pulled it to the surface.
I love that. So I had a similar, not quite the same, but I always could feel people's pain, but I didn't know that was happening for me. And then I was listening to a podcast and she's like, hey, you can come do this course about medical intuition. I was like, I need to learn about this process because I was just curious, right? And then I'm sitting there and I could just how this course came into my life was really magical. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing the steps and things. And I was like, the steps aren't sitting with me, but this feels right. But the biggest thing I learned from that was how to protect my own energy and discern what's mine and what's someone else's. And as soon as I did that, I went, oh my goodness, I've been feeling other people's pain my whole life, and for me, because I'm very Claire, can feel other people's emotions, can feel other people's pain. I'm very intuitive like that. But it was just this clarity and almost like, and then the freedom that gave me and I don't do medical intuitive work as much anymore. Like I can pull it in, but it's like I had to go through that process for me to understand how to discern what was mine and what wasn't someone else's. But I love how it evolved for you, where you were just like, the body's talking to me.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point because so many people are empathics and they do not know that it's not theirs,
Exactly.
or even to ask the question, because it will move. If you ask the question of, if this is not mine and it doesn't serve me, I ask you to leave. It will move because it's energy and it just doesn't need to be there. But we Some people think that they need to hold on to it and process it. We don't.
No, and that's exactly part of my journey. What you said, Darlene, was that beautiful, component of saying, "Hey, is this mine?" No, and I use muscle testing on myself. So I'm like, "Is this mine?" No. Is this someone else's? Yes. Do I need to do anything with it? No. Oh, great, thank you. I release it, and then it's gone. Exactly like you said. It's like magic. It is
Yeah,
magic.
it is. It is. It's some form of magic that I wish a lot of people knew, you know, for themselves.
And it's the same as much as the body as it is with emotions, right? Because often we don't realize how much we sponge on to other people's emotions, and it pulls, we pull their energy in, and then we don't realize that it's not, especially for kids,
Yeah.
they take in everything. And it's really important to help them discern what's actually theirs and what's yours, because
Yeah.
especially, my little one's quite sensitive, and being able to help him through that. It's like, no, sweetie, I'm just feeling this way right now. Okay. And then he skips off. It's really nice to see.
Yeah. I mean, even having that awareness that you don't need to carry somebody else's, I mean, the big thing is, right, it's not yours. So you
Exactly.
don't need to do anything with it.
And sometimes just acknowledging it can be enough even to shift it for that person that it's happening for. And I find that such a powerful thing to realize too.
Yeah, if we stay honest with our feelings and we express them as, I'm really having a bad day, instead of, yeah, I'm okay, and people know you're not, then at least you're having that honesty. And then I don't think you pick it up as much because there's nothing to handle. It's the truth
Exactly.
that's between the two people. And it can get resolved or moved on, but it doesn't have to go to one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's such an important thing, if anyone's listening, just to remember that you don't have to do something with everything that lands in your lap. Sometimes it's merely just acknowledging it, that it's there, and being able to let it go, which is the greatest gift you can give yourself and for that person.
Yes. I
Yeah.
agree. We are in agreement.
Yes. Go team us. Um, and I'm curious too, like this keeps getting played in my head. What is a multidimensional mediator? I'm very curious what this is.
Well, I started channeling in around 1990, and I did it for a period of, I think, 5 years, where there was one being that came in, and then there was a council that came in. So there was like 9 of them, and they left 3 seats open for visitors because they would take me to a council room where there was a teaching facility. And after about 5 years, the process was done with this one individual, why if he was here. And I was like, I didn't particularly enjoy the energy coming through my body. I felt great afterwards. It wasn't about that. It was just like I wanted to be more present. So they're like, yeah, we'll just move you into mediator. So I did that for about 4 years of really, and when they moved me into mediator, they really moved me into mediator. I mean, they brought beings in so that, I was seeing their conflict, whether it was real or it was in a past, so that I could understand that there's neutrality between two, like how do you work with them? If this was 2 clients or a couple that was in front of me, even though they weren't, they were just 2 separate species sometimes. And what was their issue? What was their conflict? And then how do you bring it to a place of either understanding or neutrality? Um, I think it was more exciting, but it was a little bit more difficult than allowing the energies to come through your body.
Well, you asked.
That, that is the thing. Watch what you ask for, right? Mm-hmm.
I just got this image of it almost like you were like almost in a courtroom when you were explaining it. And it's like just these beings get put in front of you. And because you're completely impartial, you can be that neutral party who genuinely hears what's happening for each one, so that you can get that win-win-win situation from what's happening.
Yeah. And then you get a lot of practice, right? From doing that, and a lot of, for me, it was trusting. It was because I think a lot of people don't trust themselves in their decision making, or, their choices that they make about things. And that was like a trusting process for me. There was my initial trusting of believing that when there was an energy coming into my head that was saying this or showing me that when I was working on a client, and I'd be going, no, I'm not saying that. And they'd be like, yes, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And, 10 minutes later, I'd say, okay. And then everything would open, right? So it was that kind of trusting process. And then later it became more like, how do you lean into spirit to trust what they're showing you? And what are you learning from it?
Yeah, and I love that example so much because I will sometimes do channels for people or do an oracle card reading. And I'm like, what is this coming through? And it's again just trusting it and just saying what is meant to, because I don't know if it's like same for you, Darlene, but if you ignore it, it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. It's like, okay, I need to say this. And I'll send off these oracle card readings and I'm like, because I kind of do them remotely and I'm like, I don't know how that's going to land. And normally the ones I'm the most unsure about are the ones that, oh my gosh, it's 100% what's going on in my life. And it's like, oh, okay. And I feel it's almost, again, like you said, learning to trust yourself and your decisions and that intuition that comes through, because it is really hard sometimes when you get an intuitive download or you have an experience, getting people to understand what you went through and not to feel like you're crazy at the same time.
Yeah, you'll get over that the more you do it, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. It's better now, but when I started, it'd be like, especially when I was about to channel for someone and I'm like, and I don't know what it is, but working with Australians, it's so funny because they make you work really hard to prove something. So I've had American clients and they're like, oh yeah, that's definitely what's happening. Thank you so much. And then I've had Australian clients where they're like, and what else happened? And you're like,
Right.
and then you just keep going, right? And they want you to prove it. And then finally,
Oh,
after half an hour, they'll go, oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, if you just acknowledged that like 20 minutes ago, we could have moved on and actually got a lot further in your session. But I'm glad we're on the same page now. Let's move on. But it's really interesting. And I feel it was perfect because at the same time, I had to learn to trust what was coming through. And even though they make me work really hard for it, at the same time, it was helping me get more validation in what was coming through too.
it all happens at the universal time, right? And in the appropriate
Yes.
way.
Exactly. Exactly. So has there been any unusual situations that have happened when you were in the mediator space? You're like so many.
There is so many. I mean, part of their mediation was taking me back through my own timelines, my own history, and not in this lifetime, but other lifetimes, and really clearing that up. And it wasn't pleasant, when you know that, you took 19 people on a trek up the mountains and then you left them. That wasn't good, I mean, I abused people. I mean, like, I was just like, it was about 5 months every night. They would show me something that I have done that I needed to own. And then it got better. But as that mediator, that was part of the training is if you're going to mediate, you need to clear your stuff up because
Yeah.
you can't go in with any of your own baggage.
Yeah. And that's part of your spiritual responsibility, right? You can't let your own past, your own baggage, your own weight influence what you do for people and what you share with people, because they're coming from a different energy and they're coming from a different space. And if you let your baggage come in, then you're not going to get a clear channel, get clear information for them.
Right, right. And there's different beings that come in that are very unusual. They're unusual, but they have a story. And I love stories. So, for me, it's like people will call me 20 years later after they've worked with me once and I'll go, oh, yeah, I remember that. I don't remember their name, but I remember their story. And,
For the energy.
what are
Yeah.
you doing now with that? So, yeah, they have lots of
Yeah,
stories.
I love that. And with working with like those past lives for yourself, is that how then the timeline architect role developed and came to life?
The timeline architect came in because I'm writing a series of 5 books. It might move to 6 now. And my editor, and actually she became my co-writer, she coined that because the books are ancient timelines. Some of them are my incarnations, but it's through one incarnation that starts like 50,000 years ago and how it moves through time travel and timelines and ancient history and the development, the evolution of humanity and what's happening on Earth and present day, how they all weave together. And we started finding out through that process that as we were looking at those particular timelines and we were told to change them, Like, don't just assume that, okay, so you had this lifetime where you were this and you did that and whatever. And it's not just looking at it, but how do you go and change it? Because when you change it, it changes the timeline. It no longer exists in the level that it is. And then what changes in your life now? And that was really significant in working with her, because she became someone that I started to work with around this for her own stuff. And she actually wrote a book about it. So we both have these books coming out.
Which is very cool. And like when you were explaining that, I fully understood because, I talk about this too. I also wrote a book similar to this, but it's like, the example that Spirit gave me was, say, for example, you're waiting in a lift and you see someone running for the lift, and you can make a decision to hold the door open for them or let the door shut, right? So by
Mhm.
holding the door open, you've changed your timeline and you've changed their timeline, because the choices
Right.
you make impact everything. But if you let the door shut, you've still changed your timeline and their timeline, because it means that they're going to go live on a different path. And it might be that, the person running for the lift has now missed their meeting, or they're running late, or they run into somebody and spill coffee down themselves because they're rushed, whereas if you would have held it open, they would have been on time to the meeting and got a promotion. Like, you never know the impact of just that simple act and how it can flow on. And like you said, those choices so not gravely, but so greatly impact the timeline that is changed, that is shifted. And it's like you said, it disappears and then a new one appears.
Yeah. And that, that discerning place is so important, where you use your heart and your mind in any decision, whether it's to open the door or close the door, or, run in an opposite direction, or pick that partner, or any of that. When you feel like you're coming from a discerning, which includes the heart, it's not just the mind, right? Of, yes, this is where, doesn't mean that it's going to be a positive experience either. And then again, that's judgment, right? Because every experience in some way, there isn't good and bad, right and wrong, and all that. It just is. And then what do you do with that? What's the lesson in it? What do you learn from it? So the discerning is really important in your decision making. How do you, in a split second, go, yes, I'm going to let this person go, or no, this is my lift, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've
Exactly.
been waiting 10
And
times for this thing, it's like, yes.
I'm the person, I'm the person that always holds the lifts open for people, because I think if I'm in that position, I want someone to hold the lift open for me. I'm just like, and it's still that giving, but at the same time, it's like, hopefully at some point this karma will come back. And then some people actually refuse it. And it's really interesting. I was like, okay, fair enough. See you later.
Thank
You
you.
wait
Yeah.
for this lift. Yeah. And again, that's again their choice and their decision. And then, you're only able to control your own actions and your own decisions, right? And then and be accountable for yourself.
That's right. Accountability is another one, like when you just said, it's like somebody refuses, it's like the battle of kindness, it's like, no, you go, you go, you go. Yeah.
I know. And sometimes, it's just like, oh, thank you. I'm so used to doing this for other people and you're doing it for me.
That's
And I've
nice,
learned,
right?
yeah. And also, I talked about this with someone like many episodes ago, but how much you have to condition yourself to just receive compliments without trying to explain them away, and accepting that kindness. It's almost like we have to try and explain it away. So someone would say to me, I really like your dress. Instead of saying, oh, thank you, I'd then go into this big long thing of going, oh, yeah, I got it from here and here and, all this old thing. And, instead of just accepting it as like these kind words that came for you or a kind act that's come towards you, and just saying thank you.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point about receiving, because the divine feminine, or the sacredness, is very much coming in this year in a much bigger way, in a much bigger flow, not how women have been doing it before. And it's not just women. It's how do we embody both the divine masculine and feminine. And, just in the past couple months, because I've been instructed to not only with me, but bring a group through that. And it was like, if you can't receive, you can't embody. So do you
Exactly.
receive? Do you receive, compliments? Do you allow somebody to do something for you without you feeling guilty? or, oh, I have to pay that back, or to go over into over explanation of, oh, yeah, this was really kind. Thank you very much. And, oh, it's like, yeah, we just go, thank you, and feel what that feels like and let it go.
100%. And it's so important to remember that, because if you're not open to receiving, how do you receive any abundance that's meant to come your way as well?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I love the example that you brought in too. It's like, often we feel like, oh, this person did that for me or did a favor for me. Now I owe them, or, it's that, oh, you owe me or I owe you. And it's like, well, no, I just actually just did it out of the kindness of my own heart, or, and it's funny because some people I work with, or, will have session swaps, and they'll be like, oh, but what if I don't want to swap? It's like, but that's okay. You just say,
Yeah.
I'm still, and I said, we'll just be upfront about it, because like, oh, but I don't want to feel like I owe you. And I was like, if you don't want to do a swap, we just say upfront, set our expectations and our standards. Hey, I really want a session with you. I'm happy to pay you. Or are you open to a swap? And if you say, no, I don't want to swap at the moment, that's fine. I'll pay you. But if you want to swap, then we can do that. And it's really interesting, right? Because a lot of people feel like, I can't say no, but and it's like, no, I want to see you no matter what. So, just let me know how that exchange of energy is going to happen. Is it through payment, or is it through an exchange of services?
Yeah. It's all about clarity, right? Clarity of communication.
Yeah. Yeah. And be really upfront with that too, right? And
Mhm.
so often I'll do I occasionally do oracle readings for people. And I had this run during the crazy March madness of this year, right? I don't know if you felt it too, Darlene, but it was a lot of energies happening, right? Everything was breaking down for people. And all these men were actually coming to me saying, hey, can I have a reading? I'm like, oh, okay. This is very unusual. Normally I attract women. But all of them were like, is my relationship breaking down? It was the exact same question.
Wow.
And I said, no, it is and it isn't. I said, have you actually talked to them? That was the message that came through. Have you actually spoken to them and shared what you're feeling and actually gotten really clear about your expectations and what's happening right now? No. Okay. Well, that's the number one thing, because if you're not clear and share what's going on in your life, then it's not going to really work, right?
That was very good advice. I hope they took it.
One definitely did. The other one I followed up with, and he's like, oh, we haven't had time yet. I was like, well, it's your marriage that's on the clock. So, it's up to you when you want to do it. But at the same time, do you want to live with, I actually said, do you want to live in this doubt and unknown every day, or just put a stop to that, because it's going to really shift things just knowing either way. And, it's that sitting in that maybe, and that energy of a maybe, that is so draining, and people don't realize, the what ifs and the maybes. It's so draining on your energy.
Yeah, you might as well just do it. You need, if people would be honest and truthful about where they are with things and expressing that, not looking at what it's going to create or what it's not going to create, or, you're going to have a loss or whatever, we'd be in a much better place, I think.
I agree. And I'm like that too. I'm like, why don't you just do it? I have, this other person that's in my life, and he has this really complex energetic things going on with like entities and things like that. And I'm like, this is beyond my skill set. But I have found somebody, and it was just divine timing. I just interviewed somebody, and I know they'll be able to help you. Right. And so I sent all the details over, and he's like, oh, I don't know. I said, well, I've got a session with them because I felt pulled to book in with them. I said, let me go first. And then, I'll be the guinea pig. I don't care, and then we'll see what happens. And I had the session. I said, look, it was really fantastic. They're on the money. You definitely should book in with them. I'll have a look when I get home. And then again, all the excuses happen. And it's been 2 months, 3 months, and still
Oh,
hasn't booked in. And he's still in the same loop. And I'm like, and he rang me the other day to tell me why he was still in the same loop. And I said, you know what to do? You said, I'm just going to say right now, I'm going to end this conversation. You need to book these appointments. So you just get out of your way. And like you said, if you just do it, and then things can happen, and you can move on, and you can move to the next thing, because nothing gets created when you don't make moves to make it happen too.
right. And be curious. I think that's the one thing that, when you're stuck in that place of, well, what if, and I'm afraid of the future, and I don't know what I'm going to find and all that. If you're curious, sometimes that moves you ahead. Like I'm
Exactly.
curious about what they would find, as opposed to, oh my God, what are they going to find? It's like I'm curious about that. It just takes the energy and it moves it in a different direction.
100%. I so agree. And as we start to finish our time, Darlene, I feel like there's so much I could pull out of your brain, but we have to finish this episode at some point. But if there was something that you could heal or change in the world, what do you feel that would be?
God, where do you start? One thing? Are you really
I
serious?
know.
I I would say that I think that's becoming more obvious of people trying to be more truthful, but I think it's simple. I think it's just really make it simple. People were kind. If they were
Yeah.
just kind to others by knowing that one, we're all one, like we can't get away from that. We really are all one, even if we look like we don't have anything to do with each other. But if you were kind to that person, it doesn't even mean empathic or anything, but if you were just kind, there's a basic of understanding, even if you don't totally understand. And it comes across.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it can be as simple as holding the lift door open for somebody.
Yeah. Even if they
Yeah.
say no, thank you.
Exactly. The offer was still there, and, why not? I interviewed this someone and she said, if you go to bed at the end of the day and you think, I could have done better or I could have done this better, she goes, that is when you end up with regrets. But if you go to bed and you go, I did everything I could today to live my life fully, she goes, that is when you know that you're truly living. And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment because exactly what you said with kindness, life's short. It's shorter than what we think it is. We never know when it's going to end. Why not do it and being kind? Just be kind.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're a pushover. And it doesn't
Yeah,
mean any of those negative things. Like it just means you're human, you
100%.
know?
100%. And where can people find you, Darlene, and eventually find your books, which I'm excited to read them when they come out.
You can find me on soulunion.com is my website. The books will, when they come out, the first one's supposed to come out. It's being published by Pegasus in the UK. So it should come out by the end of the year, and it's called Earthbound, The Genesis of the Great Experiment. That website should have all of that information.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to include that all in the show notes so people can find you, Darlene. But thank you so much for your time and sharing your experiences. Has been very, very amazing, like just how everything evolved and came together for you.
Thank you. Yes, I think we have a lot in common, Catherine.
I think so too. I feel we're going to have a little bit of a chat once I hit stop
I think
recording.
so.
So sorry,
Yeah.
everybody, you missed out on that part. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.